Looks like we're live, Dale.
Hey, fantastic. Yeah,
Hi.
so happy to be back again. Of course, I've missed you guys. It's been a while. It's a new year.
It is a new year. It's so exciting. 2023.
Yes, exactly.
Can't
I know.
believe it.
And of course, we're still like in the winter time and trying to get started. So I think today's topic is perfect.
Truly. And it's interesting too, because with the amount of media coverage that seems so negative, we're seeing a market that really has ripe opportunities. So it's exciting to start the year off right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, Levy, I don't remember do you have a team or are you solo? What's your story? I was just curious about that.
I have a team. I'm one of 10 agents. I run the team under Compass's umbrella.
Got it. Okay, excellent. That makes a lot of sense. One of the reasons that we were talking about this, what I wanted to talk about this topic, is that right now, just there's a lot of negativity, as you mentioned on the news, and just so much negativity among agents as well. And I mean, I don't know if you're feeling it or if you're seeing it within the team, but there's a bit of panic. Like things are low, things are slower. It's like funny. We joke about when I'm talking with other team leaders or broker owners that have been doing this for a long time, we joke about needing to dust off the price reduction skills again. Like that's something that we haven't had to teach anybody. We have to start
Right.
talking about how to talk to for sale by owners and expireds again, and
Yeah, what are expireds and what does it mean to actually have to have a marketing plan that spans more than 4 days?
right. You're like, what's a marketing plan for a listing? That's so weird. It just they sign the papers and I put it on the internet and then it sells.
Right?
That was the plan for the last 10 years. But one of the things that I think we wanted to cover was 5 strategies for like finding more business right now. And what's funny is as I'm doing webinars and talking with people, the biggest thing that I think, anytime I have people show up, like if it's a where to get business kind of thing, or the top tips for generating new business now. And what I'll do is I'll poll the audience when they show up, and there'll be like hundreds of people that show up for the thing. And I'm like, all right, who's here to hear about a really hot lead source that you haven't heard about before, that's affordable and converts really well? And every hand goes up, right? And I'm like, guess what? That doesn't exist, right? There's no new. There's no new. It's the same stuff is the problem. Where you're at is you either aren't leveraging enough of them or you don't have a system built around those lead sources, right? And or you don't have consistency around actually executing. Um, and so I know it's like, I always feel like that's kind of a letdown to be like, hey, this is what the reality of it is. You're all here looking for something because for the majority of you, those of you that don't have enough appointments or you don't have enough business right now, it's simply because you haven't had either enough venues, a consistent process around those sources, or you haven't had your consistency in action yourself. So I usually start talking about that kind of stuff. So Levia, what kind of best practices are you finding in terms of having consistency around that? Being out there and are you still
Marketing.
actively selling, by the way?
I am. Yep.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
still actively selling. Well, one thing you just said that I want to just touch on is it can be a letdown at times until you realize as an agent, the tips for success are already within your grasp. You have what you need to be the number one agent in your market. It's a matter of systemizing and understanding and really becoming an expert at what you have. So I think that's pretty remarkable for all of us. And I love that you said that. In terms of consistency, what I find, what I appreciate about real estate is that it's ever changing, right? If it was the same old, anyone could do it. It could be automated and they wouldn't need us advisors. But with the ever changing flow, when the market and the media starts to scare people off, we can dig in and kind of enjoy looking at our systems, revisiting or creating. And the consistency is profound because we're all so good at starting it up
Mhm.
It's like, yes, this is going to work and I'm going to do it. And you make a page of notes and you're ready to do it. And you do it for a solid 3 days. And then you start getting the showings and all that magic sauce that got you there, that starts to be forgotten. So one of the things that I'm working on consistently is using my CRM in a systematic way. And a big portion of that, and then I'll turn it back over to you, is grouping my stages of people so I know what they have in common and I know how much of my mind share I need to be giving them in what designated time.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. It's funny. I wanted to share this that, in fact, today, and this happens to all of us, I'm sure, as business owners, I'm a business owner too, right? There's those moments where you're like, oh my God, there's a million and one things I could be doing right now. I have no idea what I should be doing, and none of them sound good. Like, I'm not interested in any of these things, and I don't even know which to pick from. And so I was having, honestly, this morning, even this morning, I was having one of those panic moments where what I did is I just wrote down on my marker board over here, if you could see it, I wrote today. And then the way I think is I just put it, I broke it into three things, right? Hey, what's the most important thing I have to focus on? And the first thing for me, sales, right? I wrote sales. And then I wrote delivery. Well, and for me, obviously I have a coaching and training business. So for me, delivery means what we're teaching, how we're getting it to our clients, or how much it's impacting them, right? And then systems after that. And I was like, all right, if I can focus on sales today, and then I'll focus on some delivery because I know I have some issues that I need to focus on. And then if I get through that and I still have time, I'll focus on some systems. Notice I led with sales. And next to that, I just wrote 10 contacts. So that was Dale's assignment for today, get 10 contacts. And when you're talking about organizing your CRM in that way, that becomes way easier, right? So if you were if whoever's listening had a moment of panic and they're like, oh my God, what are the million things? Should I change the colors of my Instagram account today, or should I do something else, right? Hey, I always default to sales, and to me, the easiest way to equate that would be how many contacts am I going to make today? And if you already have your database segmented in that way, the database, when you have your leads oriented in that way, makes it really easy, right? You
Yeah.
can go to my super hots. I talked to this one yesterday. Oh, I haven't talked to this one in a couple of days. Okay, here's one of my contacts that I'm going to reach
Right.
out. Yeah, and just do that. And you can knock out those contacts. So I think between you and I, your system and my like panic clarity, I think if people can follow that, that's like a very simple North Star for them.
I'll tell you one of my cheats too. You know how you have those mornings, this was a morning for me, where you're starting and you just don't have the fire under you yet. You're
Oh yeah.
just, you're kind of dragging for whatever reason. It's just life. I have a cheat that I like to go into my system, and I know I'm not yet ready to be on. I'm not yet ready to solve the world's problems, but I am ready to just touch base. So I like to reach out to my folks, my active yet quiet, and text them. The people that I can start my day with a simple text, letting them know I'm thinking about them, but it doesn't require more from me than about 5 minutes so I can start to get my brain in gear. And I segment up my day. It's on my calendar. At 8 a.m., I go into my database and I'm looking at my day. At 1 p.m., I'm going into my database again to see what's happened between 8 and 1 that I wasn't on for or responding to. And then at 6 p.m., I go in just before dinner to look at it and see if there's any catch up I should do before I sign off to family time.
Yeah.
And that works for me, but I have to be cognizant of my energy level and how ready I am to be on, because if I'm not, the calls aren't going to go well.
Mhm. Yeah, no, they're not. And you know what I would say, that I love that. I think that's fantastic, and everybody can take a tip from that. Bruce Schneider wrote totally out of it right now, and it's 11:10 already. Hey, Bruce, I get it, buddy. It happened. It has happened and will happen to all of us. So don't beat yourself up. And Bruce attends a lot of my trainings when I'm on Follow Up Boss. So I know he's a killer, and I've role played with the guy. He's really good. But even happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. That's such an easy way to get in. And I want to point out that to everybody, you mentioned time blocks, right? you have those benchmarks, you have those times that you're going to do them at. And that's a really great way to have that for you. And one of the tips that I had written down for today is if you don't have those time blocks, put them on there, right? At least structure it a little bit in that way. If you have your time blocks and you aren't observing them, then figure out a way that you can trick yourself into observing them, and easing into the pool like that is a really great way to do it. Start with your text messages, start with your DMs, start with your emails, and then get your energy ramped up to a phone call or a Zoom meeting or whatever it may be.
Yeah, be ready to advise by the time you start picking up the phone, but the initial can just be a warm up.
Yeah.
One other trick I learned for a lot of folks is if your time block, in all good intentions, it's like we all start with our resolutions, right? I'm going to do this, this, and this. You start with your 8, 1, and 6, and you realize I'm just not observing it. I'm seeing the reminder and I'm ignoring it. Adjust the time block. You might only be able to do a 9 and an 11, but give yourself, and so I run a team of 10 agents. I only have so much time to get in and live in the database. But what I do is I commit to 15 minutes. That's not a lot of time. It's 15 minutes to look over what I have happening and determine how much I can get done and how much can be delayed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I think we're definitely talking about the mindset issue, right? So this was on part of what we were going to talk about today. And I mean, I think we're both very transparent about we do not always have the mindset that's supportive. And there's times when we would just rather do anything else. In fact, yesterday I was pretty unproductive today. But I kind of know myself, and I knew I was unproductive yesterday and I didn't want to be focused on business. And then usually when I get a good night's sleep, I'm like, I know that I'm going to feel more like it in the morning. And that usually happens. And then today I get up and I'm like, okay, I have some basic non-negotiables that I have to get accomplished today. And as long as I get those things done, then I'm okay. And everything else can be chaos around that. Non-negotiables are showing up and doing a Ylopo webinar, making 10 contacts, meeting with my trainers, having a powwow with them. Those are just some of the non-negotiables for today. Yep. So one of the other things that I had written down over here is when we're talking about the consistency around the time blocks, I tell people this. I have this funny thing that I say, and I told my trainer about it. I don't like to go, well, let me put it this way. I usually prefer not to go to the gym, right? I usually prefer not to work out. And I have this great new trainer that I've been working out with. I've been working out with him for about a month or so now. And I said, hey, you're my favorite trainer so far. And he's like, what are you talking about, man? We just started working out together. How can you say that I'm your favorite trainer? And I'm like, because I can tell you that I don't feel like being here and you won't lean on me too hard, right? And so if you allow me to at least come here and do a crappy workout versus not showing up and doing any workout, as long as I'm allowed to do it poorly, then I'll keep coming back. Like, that's just my personality, my nature.
You showed up.
I showed up. If I show up and you let me do it bad, okay, great. And so a lot of times, sometimes we'll just tell clients and students and people that we're doing training with, like, just do it terrible. Just show up and have a bad conversation. Just show up and not do a good job with your scripting and dialogue. And it's okay. Obviously, you don't want to do that every day because you're going to be losing a lot of opportunity. What I'm trying to say in that is give yourself permission to not feel like it, to not do what you think is your best or not do it perfectly. I think that a big part of what we avoid is the idea of, oh my God, I have to be on, I have to be great, I have to show up and be amazing, I have to knock it out of the park, I have to win. So if you give yourself permission to show up and not win, I think that can certainly help a lot in terms of just getting it done.
And what you just said is profound, Dale, because consistently showing up becomes a habit. You make it a habit, your baseline for success is already in stone, but you have to make it a habit. Now, if you use the excuse of I'm just not on today, I'm not going to show up. Well, now your instinct is, if I don't feel like it, I'm not going to do it. And then you wonder, why is my business not thriving? Because you're not showing up when you don't feel like it. And the more you don't feel like it, the more you're not going to show up. It becomes a bad issue. So when you're working with people and you realize that there's needs that you're helping them to accomplish, and there's reasons why you're making yourself show up, you're creating this habit. And one little mind trick I use, I don't worry about the outcome. My goal is just a conversation. I can't help people. I don't know what the problem is yet. So instead of me jumping ahead to, I'm going to close this transaction, I'm going to get it done, I'd rather get to know them with a simple, non-salesy conversation to understand what that means. And that pressure being taken off of me is a great little hack to make me go, I don't have to perform. My performance is just having a conversation, and that we can do naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I just use the shorthand of contact, but conversation, that can be much better. I'll clarify if I were to say I was going to say, just add one of the tips that I want to give for the 5 strategies is add 10 more contacts per week or day, depending on what kind of beast you are, right? If you're having 5 conversations in a week, add 10, make it 15. Right? If you're having 5 conversations per day, add 10 to that, make it 15 a day. So it's either a day or a week, but add 10. If you want to get through this, if you want to ramp your business up, you want to get through this spring. But if you want to say conversation, make it that. And so for those listening to me, I would just qualify it by saying it needs to be those conversations. If you're adding 10 a day or 10 a week, it needs to be conversations with new buyers or sellers who you haven't yet met with, right? So for a first buyer meeting or a first seller meeting, add 10 of those, either per week or per day. And that alone would really pour some rocket fuel on what you're doing and help you overcome the downturn in business.
Yeah. So right in line with that, I find that if you're able to, I'm going to use me again, right? Last week, I was not digging the computer. I didn't want to be behind the screen. I didn't want to be making calls, but I know I have to go out there and network. People need to know who I am if I want to be a successful agent. So I just took the cards with me. And part of what I use is I want a conversation with someone that's trackable and I can follow up on it. So you do need to make it an organic conversation. Give them your card, but also get their cell phone or email so that you can follow up. And don't feel that's pushy. It's old school, right? We'd meet people and what would we ask for? Do you mind if I get your phone number? We're so used to everyone coming to us behind a screen, we're scared to do that. But to make these conversations get roots, we need to have a way to follow up. Even if the follow-up is just, hey, it was so nice running into you today at the supermarket. I'm so excited to hear that you're newly moved to blank. I'd love to keep in touch with you so that you know what's going on in the market because we're living in a hot place. And you send that out and it's a follow-up and they know that it wasn't just a passing conversation, but they mattered to you.
Yeah. I specifically don't carry business cards. I don't use them. I don't carry them. I don't give them out. When I have a conversation with somebody, I say, oh, hey, let me text you. What's your number? And then I say, I'm going to
And
text you.
there's your contact info.
Yeah. Or I might say, oh, Livia, loved talking to you. I'd love to send you my market report on whatever, or I'd love to send you this great thing this great video I saw about such and such neighborhood. I usually get email addresses wrong. How about this? I'll text you, text me back your email address so I have it right. What's your number?
Genius.
Yeah, but it's always text for me, right? I want to be in control of getting that contact information because then I'll text you, hey, Livia, this is Dale. Great seeing you at the grocery store, blah, 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 right? And then I will put you into my phone. I'll put you into the database and then I have you there and we'll do the follow-up from there. That's just how I handle it.
And think about 10 of those, right? You do 10 of those, they already know you face to face. You're a real person and you've shown that you care about them. It's tremendous. So if you can't be behind a computer, get out there and do it.
Bruce Snyder got 2 email addresses and phone numbers at the dog park last week. There you go.
Amazing, Bruce.
So Bruce's hot lead source is the dog park. Nobody go to Bruce's dog park. That's Bruce's dog park, but you can go to any other dog park and get business.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Bernadette. Sorry, it's Bruce's wife, Bernadette, who did that. Don't go to Bernadette's dog park. She's already got that one covered.
It's locked down.
That's excellent. Yeah. So like I said, I don't even have business cards made. I don't hand them out. Every once in a while, you run across an old school person who is a business card person. And they're like, what do you mean you don't have business cards? And I'm like, oh, well, I just text you. It's so much easier. I'm going to text you right now with the number. Right.
Conservative New England here, they like it. But I'm going to totally lead with the texting, like you just said. I just wrote it down. That's going to be how I lead, because it's giving me the ability to control. I don't have to hand my card and then ask for their info.
Yeah, exactly. And, if you just, in fact, I would suggest that I just wouldn't pull the card. I mean, for agents listening, I wouldn't pull the card out that way, because if you hand it to them and it's a stranger and I'm like, oh, well, let me text you, then they'll be like, well, I have your info right here. Why would I
I'll
do
text you.
that? Yeah, I'll hit you up. I'll text you. I'll let you know. Let's see. Darren wrote, I grew up coaching with Mike Ferry. My life has no meaning if I haven't spent all day on the phones. I just need to convert better on what I have coming in. That's great, Darren. Darren's like, I haven't lived a day if I haven't. Listen, I was in coaching too. I know how that goes. And I had that. So that's why for me, when I said I wrote down 10 contacts for today, because that's just how my mind works. I'm like, oh man, if I'm stuck, salvation is through contacts. So I just need to make contacts, which is what Darren's talking about. Yeah, so converting better is certainly the name of the game. And why don't we talk about that a little bit right now, and how things are down, because we're going to have a lot more conversations. We're going to have a lot more interactions. The reality is that A, B, and C qualifications for a buyer and seller have shifted. Those have moved, right? They've become harder. They've become more stringent, and there's just fewer of them. And that's how it is. And that's why you have to have more conversations. So when Darren says need to convert better on what he has coming in, I think that a big part of it is, yes, we have to get better about converting what's coming in, but also just qualifying people and whether they really do qualify as an A, B, or C. And what I work with a lot of clients on is just focusing on your A's and getting more of them. But that requires more conversations, requires more sifting.
Yeah. I think so something to think about deeply with the changing market. Jason, one of the realtors in residence with Ylopo, he made a comment and it was just so remarkable to me. He said, we're switching to a skilled market. And that's a beautiful thing when you're thinking about a career that you've chosen in an industry that's highly competitive, because you have to be skilled. And being a skilled agent means that the unskilled agents will fall by the wayside. So in a skilled market, you want to look at understanding the data that's coming in, understanding the temp gauge of where it falls, and being cognizant that people are going to be hesitant. They're seeing the same media headlines we are. It just isn't necessarily translating to your exact zip code, right? We look at the country as a whole and we're all getting the same media coverage, but in your pocket market, you might have still a very strong seller's market, or you might have a market that's shifting to a buyer's market. Either one of those is ripe with opportunity. Switching to a buyer's market means get on the phone, talk to the buyers about how that translates to accomplishing their goals. A seller's market still means, guys, in spite of all the media coverage, we have a glut of buyers waiting. This is opportunity. Act now. Both of those approaches take the market, the unknown, the fear, and translate it into a way that people can act. And that's essentially why they want a realtor. They want guidance. They want advice. So for us, when we're hearing this, what I like to do is I like to dig in on the data, as geeky as that sounds. I like to look and I like to say, okay, how much inventory do we realistically have? Because I don't want to hear the market's about to fall without understanding how much inventory we have versus demand. Mm-hmm. That's a direct counter to it. So I think it's important when we're having conversations, view it as an opportunity to share opportunity, an opportunity to share opportunity, But realistically, give them confidence. The media stripping people of confidence. And there's nothing worse than thinking you are making a bad decision.
Oh yeah, of course.
Nothing.
Absolutely.
So if you can be leading with opportunity, it's going to change the whole feeling of your phone calls.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever when we run into people that are citing the market, the interest rates, the global whatevers, right? The other thing that I make sure and tell people is to focus on the motivation. Do they in fact have the motivation? So there are people who have motivation and yet object out of fear. But at some point that motivation is going to come back around or get acute enough that they will move forward, and you want to make sure that you're there for that. And then some people are just talking to talk, right? Some people are just reciting the news, but really have no intention or need to make a move, to make a sale, to make a purchase. And so one of the things that we like to do, and I was just in Inman last week, and we were doing a live role play panel. And one of the things we demonstrated was a takeaway. So if you have somebody who's arguing about why not now, why they shouldn't be doing something now, how it doesn't make any sense, the sky is going to fall, you just reverse it and say, oh yeah, you know what, with all of that, why would you even bother trying to buy right now? Or why would you even bother trying to sell right now? And if they have the motivation in there, if they have the need in there, they will quickly reverse what they're doing and say, oh, well, it's because I need X, Y,
I'll
and
tell you why.
they'll tell you exactly why, right? And so that's kind of a tricky way to get them to flip the lever and get them out of the no and negative into the need and want, and where they want to get to. Just kind of a verbal technique that works.
I love it.
Yeah. And if they have no motivation, then they'll just say, well, I'm not. Yeah, I have no reason to move, and I'm going to stay here for the next 10 years.
Right. And respect where people are, right? Because if they have no motivation, or they don't qualify, or they really just are so fear-based, they are not going to do anything, don't let that bring you down. That's uncovering someone where they are in the timeline, understanding how to advise them. You make notes, so when you follow up, you know what info would be helpful, but you move on. Keep it going, because that's not someone, you can't convince someone to purchase a home, no matter how great our willpower is.
No.
They have to feel there's a need, and you have to give them the confidence, the advice, and walk them through the process. But you're not going to talk someone into buying a home over the phone.
No.
You can definitely talk yourself out of being a good agent by dealing with all those people.
Yeah. And I want to bring this back around to the contacts, the consistency, right? So we just talked about, hey, if somebody's not going to buy, if they're fear-based, this is the way they're operating, or they don't have the motivation, great, that's fine. Well, it's really easy to say that if you're having lots of conversations, right? But if you only talk to 2 people in a week, and both of them are like, I'm not going to buy anything, I'm not going to sell anything,
You're done.
you're done. To you, the world is ending, right? But if you talk to 50 people in a week, and 40 of them have no motivation or no ability, but the other 10 do, well, then you have a very different perspective than that person who talked to 2 people who can't or won't.
Amazing point. Amazing, Dale. That is profound, because that is what talks people out of success, is focusing on, you get through the 2, they both say no, and you decide, listen, no one's buying. Because 2 of 2 aren't.
Right.
But 10 of 50, you're thinking, oh dear God, I don't want to make any more calls. I don't have the bandwidth to do 10 deals this week.
You'd be referring people, right? Or you'd say, oh man, I need to hire more agents because I just have too much business. It's all a matter of perspective.
Yep, it is.
I used to, when I sometimes I talk about personal stuff, but back when I was selling, my wife and I were selling at the same time, and she hates it when I throw her under the bus, but she would like to complain to me about her clients. And my famous phrase that just infuriated her was, if you don't like your clients, go get more clients. And it was like, that's not helpful, right? Of course it's not helpful, but the whole point is, if you don't like your clients, go get more. If you had 2 conversations and neither of those people are buying, you sell houses, go talk
get more
until you find people who want to buy and sell houses, or can buy and sell houses. That's kind of the point. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. Would say that having a system like RedX is essential. Joe Janis has trained with us. Hey, Joe. Yeah, so he asked, would we say that having a system like RedX is essential? I would say that having a system where you can get contact information for people who either have the intent to do something like an expired or FISBO, or even circle prospecting or marketing, uh, can be a good business thing to have. If you, one, don't have a big sphere of influence or past clients, or you're not using a lead generation source like Ylopo, if you need something, yes, you could do that. Or if you want to add to the lead mix that you're already running, the business mix that you're already running, as long as you're going to do it consistently. So right now, I would say don't add on any additional systems or expenses that you won't execute on consistently, because all it will do is represent a drain financially for you.
Yeah. And it will stress you out with more things to learn.
And it will stress you out. And presumably most people are here because they're running the Ylopo system right now. And so what I would say is I would first double and triple down on this system before you add another system. So are you using this system fully? Are you running, are you running your app leads? Are you using all of the lead generation tools that they have within this system? And are you plugging it into a solid CRM that's built out with really good messaging and retention campaigns? So as long as you have that answer, and are you calling these people?
Yeah.
If you're calling these people, great, then find some more people to call.
Yep. One other little hack that I'm going to share that I've been really ingraining into my agents is open houses right now. So if you're feeling sluggish, or you're feeling like you just don't know where to find the buyers, and you're making your calls and you're just not turning them up, if you have listings, if people in your office have listings, volunteer to do open houses. Ylopo has some amazing tools to capture these people. Remember, what Dale and I are both saying is it's not just conversation, but it's the ability to follow up on it. If you're using the systems that are provided, and if you don't have them, there are systems to use, you want to capture these people. The reason I say open houses is, think about it. You're taking 2 hours of your life, and you will turn up, usually minimum 1, but up to 3 to 5 people seriously looking. What that means is you've just put people into your database that have already indicated they are willing to get in their car, drive to look at houses, in spite of the market, in spite of the interest rates, in spite of the media press.
Yeah.
Those are people that you get face to face with, and those likely turn into your next clients. And agents, when markets shift, they don't like to put the time into these people. They get scared. They don't want to be pushy. Get in front of them at an open house and massage that database of yours. You're bringing your A people, you're filling that bucket really quickly with open houses.
You know, it's so funny. You just mentioned agents don't want to be pushy. I err hard on the opposite side of that. I get more pushy and more aggressive. In fact, I've had to learn how to take down the aggression level, so that I don't scare the deer away. You can't eat the deer if it runs away from you. You know what I mean? I had to realize that. Yes, you want to go hunt, but stop chasing the wildlife away.
Let them come to you.
Yeah, I would say, Livia, that in my experience, for everybody listening, that probably 90%, 95% of the salespeople that I run across in this business aren't aggressive enough. Actually, we all know the ones that are too aggressive, right? Like we see and hear them coming and discover them very quickly. And you are probably not one of them. If you're listening to this right now, you probably aren't one of them. Just not be aggressive enough. But I would say that is one of the tips that I wanted to talk about is, when I talk about adding 10 contacts per day or per week, look at it from this perspective. Focus on every single week getting a new potential buyer, or getting face-to-face with a new potential buyer or new potential seller. So when you're combing through this database, when you're going through these leads, when you're having your conversations, when you're running an open house, you're actively looking for, who can I show houses to this week that I haven't shown a house to yet? Because of what you just said, if they're willing to go and look at a house, they've already set themselves, above 70% of the other people that you're going to talk to. Not everybody's going to end up buying, it just doesn't work that way. But intrinsically, people will know whether they have the capability and or willingness to buy, and they won't waste their time to go look at houses usually in this
Yeah.
kind of market.
And generally people will come in and to kind of keep us at bay, say, I'm just a neighbor. I'm just being a nosy neighbor looking around. You already know. Now, note to all agents listening, the nosy neighbors are curious if this house is going to sell for that price because they've been thinking about selling their home. So when they say that, don't discount it, capture their info, talk to them, and view it as an opportunity to be interviewed as a potential listing agent. You love the neighbors, but remember that you're going to capture those buyers, the low hanging fruit. You're putting them in your database. You're kind of cutting to the front of the line as opposed to having to start with the database. It doesn't take the place of your database, but it just it fills your pipeline. I'm all about predictable income. I love predictable income, which is why I segment my database. That's why I have A's, B's, and C's. So I can look at my year and go, we're going to have a good year in spite of everything going on. We have this many in the next 3 months, this many in the next 6. Open houses, you're kind of bumping them to the front.
Yeah. And I would say, don't be afraid at an open house, depending on how people are reacting, how the individual is interacting with you. If they seem as though they're standoffish, there's nothing wrong with asking, hey, do you have a real estate agent that you typically work with if you do make a move? There's nothing wrong with asking that, because even if they say, yeah, my so-and-so down the street, or yeah, we work with Livia, we've bought and sold with her many times. Hey, that's fantastic. It really does make a difference to have somebody that you can trust, and then just go on and see if you can actually get an appointment with them. Don't take Livia's people. But my point is, who cares, right? Like, it's not like you're going to introduce the idea of having a regular real estate agent. They're like, you know what? Now that you mentioned it, I am gonna get myself a regular agent, and it's not going to be you. Listen, they already know if they have somebody, they already know who they are. If they have somebody they want to work with or feel like they're comfortable with, they already know who they are. They're just avoiding conversing with you because they regard you as an entity, as a strange, as a threat, because you're an unknown, because you're a salesperson. They're waiting for you to try to convert them. And if you just put it out on the table and let them tell you all about their amazing real estate agent that they have, they will relax and be more likely to talk to you and have a conversation with you. So that is a good technique that you can use to de-escalate with them.
And along those lines, don't feel that you're going to talk them out of the agent. Be kind, be respectful, be professional when they say who their agent is. Even if you know their agent is agent worst on the streets, try to think of something that's nice about the agent. Like, oh, I love that they always come dressed to the nines. Whatever it is, think of it to say, because with what Dale said earlier, when you flip the script on them, they're going to think, well, they are always dressed to the nines, but they're not as knowledgeable as Livia is. And now she thinks I have to work with that agent dressed to the nines when I really I was impressed with Livia. So be respectful, be kind, be professional, but don't forget you're still being interviewed. They popped in to see what's going on. So show it off. Show them what you're made of.
Don't be afraid to be a salesperson. Okay. Because that's what we are. That's what our profession is. It's the expertise that people appreciate, right? I make a joke that salespeople, real estate agents are like cops. Nobody wants to talk to you until they need you, right? But when they need you, they need you. They need your help, man, right? That's what we are. We're professional salespeople, and if you're really good at what you do and you believe in yourself, then you just need to share that with people. And just like Livia said, if they're really committed to an agent, or that agent is doing a really great job for them, as long as you're ethical, you're not going to talk them out of that agent anyway. So there should be no fear there. And in fact, you can practice having that sort of competitive sales situation when somebody does have an agent, okay? So that you can be prepared when you run across that person who either doesn't have a great agent working on their behalf, or actually doesn't have much of a commitment or engagement already. And then you'll be really experienced and prepared to be able to have a confident conversation and not just be scared and run away from it.
100%.
Yeah.
Like Sarah said, elevate always. That's the name of the game, especially in a market that's a little wonky. Elevate. The second you elevate, people notice it.
I want to give people another tip here. This is just a piece of advice. If you're slow right now, if you're having difficulty, or if you want to if you want more appointments and you don't have them, this is another thing that I see a lot of across clients, is that they just aren't doing enough consistent sphere of influence or past client touches or interactions. And for all of those who just roll their eyes, I'm not suggesting that you go and start calling all of them or call them even more or do anything aggressive or anything like that. But I think that if all you did was added one more purposeful touch per month to whatever you're doing, that really can make the difference for you. And when I say a purposeful touch, I would say that, probably the least productive would be email in terms of touching, right? Or sending things out. So, if it's a call, great. Call the people you feel comfortable calling. If it's a text, great. Text the people that you feel comfortable texting. If it's a social DM, if it's anything, even face to face, just do whatever you feel comfortable doing, but add one more touch. And if you're not already doing this, have the consistent like, comment, share process. Just add another like, comment, share touch in there. That's like the easiest one to do.
I love the text, and I love when people say, what am I going to say? I know they're happy there. They don't want to do anything.
Mhm.
You're not trying to talk past clients into selling the house you sold to them. You're trying to uncover if there's any real estate needs that they're not telling you about because they see how busy and successful you are on social media, that they don't want to bother you, that their son is looking for an entry-level home.
Yep.
We forget the messaging we're putting out there makes us so busy that sometimes clients hold back. One of my favorite lines turns up so many listing opportunities for me. I was just on your street the other day and I couldn't help but realize how much time went by. I miss you guys. How's it been in the new house? It could be a month, it could be 6 months, it could be a year or 2 years. When you're on the street and you pass by a house, send the text. You'd be surprised how much conversation gets started with that simple little nudge.
Yeah. And you know what you can do is, let's say that that's a fantastic one. Let's say that you are consistently touching these people. And I can't say, oh, it's been so long, right? Then you just shift to something else. Hey, did you see that a house or a house in the neighborhood just went for X? You could pretty much do that for anybody, right? And you can do that multiple times in the year. Or did you see this one that just got listed? Go ahead, Levia.
Yep. I was going to say another helpful one. We live in a little village on Cape Cod. There's little village events going on all the time. If you have a list of people that you like to reach out to, remind them what's going on in the village they bought in.
Right.
Hey, didn't know if you guys saw, but we're going to have a chocolate fest on February 10th. Thought you'd want to know.
Yeah.
It's just a reason to reach out, and I hope I'm going to see you guys there. You could have just talked to them yesterday and still send that text.
Of course, yeah. And you know what? I had this on my list of things that people should do at Chocolate Fest. See if you can get involved with the damn Chocolate Fest, okay?
Do a chocolate fest. If there isn't
Do a
one,
chocolate
make
fest.
one.
Right, do a Chocolate Fest. But that's one piece of advice also for now, is go and add one club or organization or committee or something in your local area that you're not already connected to, and get yourself involved, right? So don't just join, but find something that resonates or something that you want to do, and contribute, right? So
Be a
help,
voice.
volunteer, be involved, because just attending is one thing, but actually being involved or helping to sponsor those things is entirely another. We're currently working on getting a skate park in our township. They're called townships here, right? Working on getting a skate park in our township, and we have to come up with money to help contribute to the skate park. Well, who has money? Business owners. Who knows everybody else in your community? The business owners in your community. So when you go talk to the business owners and you tell them, hey, I sell houses, and you promote them and you promote their business, they want to promote you and your business. So if you're not having, I'm not telling you to just go get more leads and talk to more strangers, but if you can add one more touch to your sphere of influence and past client, and you can also add one organization, one event, one thing that you could sponsor or be a part of or be engaged with in order to have conversations with people you don't already know in your community or other leaders in your community, that's huge. And it's so easy to do. And people love the help.
They do. It's
Yeah.
tremendous. And it lets people, the people that don't necessarily need a realtor, they know your name, they know what you do because you've put it out there. You're not trying to sell them a house. You're simply a member of the community and they know your name and what you do. And it makes you credible for when the time comes.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. I'm trying to get through our tips here because we're winding down on time. Here's another one that I wrote down for everybody is, and we do this sometimes with our clients, is turn your database upside down. What I mean by that is that a lot of times we have a tendency to just work the ones that have bubbled to the top or just work from the hottest down and keep doing that over and over again. I would say at least twice a year, if not 4 times a year, you take your database and you go from the oldest, least communicated with and start doing active outreach to them, calls, texts, and emails to those. So flip the database upside down because just because they're active on the site, just because they're actively opening things or engaging. I mean, I've had people on our sites 3 years, 4 years who never answered anything and then finally came back around and purchased. But what else were we doing for those 3 or 4 years while they weren't talking to us, right? There's lots of people who haven't been back to the site, who haven't been doing anything. And when we flip those upside down and roll through the oldest back to the newest, it helps bubble up and get us opportunities that we don't otherwise have. If they aren't interacting, it means they aren't looking at your emails. It means that they aren't coming to your site and doing anything. But if you have the contact info for them, just reach out and get in touch with them.
And worst case scenario, you're cleaning out your database.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you have a bounced email and a bad phone number, then just clear
You
it out.
can, yeah, clear it out. You're cleaning it out. You're really refining your efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So we got authentic or add another touch to sphere of influence. Turn the database upside down. Add a local club or organization or some kind of committee. The other thing I was going to say, this is something I find interesting, is that a lot of people aren't using or are using maybe 1 or 2 referral lead sources, one of those like pay at closing type, or where you don't have to pay for the leads up front. So what I would say is right now, if the most important thing is having conversations, is having interactions with people, like the difference between 2 people a week and 10 people a week, then adding additional referral sources is another good place to do it. So my advice is add 2, just pick 2 and add them and start doing it and start having conversations. You're putting those people into your database, you're putting them onto your campaigns, you're remarketing to them once they come to your website for something. So building your database constantly and flipping your database over is really what the whole point is. And then having conversations.
Yeah, you're harvesting your database. You're going through and determining who is real and who isn't, and you're letting your time be valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think that's one thing that a lot of people complain about is they're like, I don't have enough people to talk to. If you don't have enough people to talk to, get more people to talk to. That's kind of it's that common sense advice, right? And so where do you get more people to talk to? You could just go Google best real estate lead sources, and there are you're gonna run across everything that you already knew, and I guarantee that you probably aren't leveraging 75% of it. But if you grab that stuff, you put it into your database, you put them on a good messaging campaign, attempt to call them, text them, all that stuff, and then let the system do its work. Really, the game is how many people are seeing your face and your name and are at least engaging with your content or seeing your content.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we forget sometimes that it's a numbers game, but it is a numbers game because you have to find the people ready, willing, and able. And so when I got into the business, no word of a lie, I was handed a phone book and they said, just start calling and say, do you have any friends or family? Don't ask if they want to, but say, I'm happy to announce I've joined this company and do you have any friends or family? And I remember thinking, are you for real? Like I'm going through the days and that's how I'm going to find business. Thank God for technology that we are far beyond those days. People get to raise their hand, whether or not they're ready to do something now or not. They have an interest in the industry you've made a career from. You have a talking point. It's not awkward. They've already said they want to be involved. It's all a matter of where in the funnel they are. And that's what these phone calls uncover and conversations. And I do love the referral option as well, because we do feed several referral networks in. We put them all into our database, and we use Ylopo, and Ylopo touches them for us. So I don't have to remember to contact everyone constantly. But the beauty in a referral network is someone else is trying to nurture them and get them ready. Yes, you pay a fee for it, but it's a pipeline fill. We don't base our entire pipeline on it, but let the pipeline get filled by those and keep your consistent efforts to fill your own pipeline.
Yeah. What do you have any favorites that you want to mention?
We've been using Fast Expert, Upnest, and Ojo are the three that we use. And they're, with Upnest, it's a few agents getting the same referrals, but we've been pretty consistent getting some quality listings. That's through realtor.com.
That's excellent. Yeah, so I just interviewed another agent out of Fort Worth. He has a small team, and they do ZBuyer. They do the seller leads from ZBuyer. They take those, pump them into their database, have initial conversations. If they don't get the initial conversation, they just market to them on the back end. And they're able to take, 3 to 5 listings a month just from that one referral source.
Yep.
And it is a competitive situation. They're looking for this. People are typically looking for cash sales or competitive offers, and you just structure something around it, right? So you have the conversation. You get the at bats. That's the whole point, is getting the at bats.
Yeah. And if you haven't used Direct Connect by Ylopo, it's amazing, because people are answering so many questions before they come into the database that you have a true baseline to connect with them. Don't just, if you see not ready for a call, don't not call. Just understand you're kind of getting an overview of their scenario, and then remember they need you. But I find those to be a rich source of fast transactions. They're putting in enough info that if they were just looky-loos, they would have dropped off.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. I think we got all the 5 points covered in there that I wanted to talk about.
More.
And a few more. Yeah, exactly. Excellent. Livia, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
So nice to be able to hang out with you, even if it's just virtual, Dale. You always get me pumped up and ready to go.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
All right. We're at the top of the hour, huh?
We're almost there. Yes, I have another webinar I have to get to. And so I'm going to take my last couple of minutes to make a transition. But
all right. Awesome, you guys. Good seeing everyone. Bye.
Bye.